So hello everyone, this is Narendra from Civil Department. I am going to explain about the disaster impacts which is comes under third unit of syllabus in disaster preparedness and planning management subject. So first of all, what is the meaning of disaster impacts? So as we know that the disasters, whether natural or human-made disasters, which are present in the environment, so like earthquakes, hurricanes, and floods, cyclones, so which has comes under natural disasters, and human-made. The example of the human-made is industrial spills, industrial pollution, or oil spills or chemical spills, conflicts between the people and terrorist attacks. So these will be comes under the man-made disasters or human-induced disasters, which are widespread impacts across the various domains, like the impact on infrastructure, impact on human being, impact on people, and several areas the disaster may be affected. So in this video, we deeply learn about the number of the impacts which are comes under the various disasters will be occurs in the environment. So some of the areas we are observing here, the disasters occurring due to floods, the number of impacts are there, and submerging areas, and also due to wildfire or forest fires, number of forests which are destroyed or disruption of the forest will be occurs, and due to earthquakes, number of buildings or infrastructure will be damaged, and also due to floods, the more number of areas like urban cities or rural areas will become flood submerged zones, and due to landslides also some of the areas will be destroyed because of sliding of the land and erosion of the soil. So these are the areas generally we observe. The main impacts of the disaster which will be comes under the environment impacts and physical impacts, social impacts, ecological impacts, economical impacts will be there, and political impacts will be occurs, and the effect on health, human health or animal health or wild life health will be affected due to disasters, and finally psychological problems will be also rises while the disaster will be occurs. Some of the areas we observe in the environment impacts, those are the disruption of the ecosystem will be occurs. Example, wildfires will be large amount of large area of the forest will be destroyed because of wildfires, and also by the oil spills, the human made or man made disasters will be occurs. It will be creates or it will be releases some amount of oil spills, and emission pollutants also will be destroys the oceans, rivers, streams, lakes, and ponds. And most of the areas of the loss of the biodiversity, the number of species will be extinction due to habitat destruction, and soil will be degraded because of erosion. The soil erosion also a type of natural disaster which will be comes under, and contamination or pollution will be occurs in the water, air. So the natural air will be which will be became a contaminated air, or the fresh water will be became a contaminated or pollutant water, and water contamination because of chemical spills or sewage overflow by the floods will be occurs the water contamination also, and air pollution because of wildfires. The whenever the wild will be fires, the emissions, harmful emissions which will be releases into the atmosphere, and the air will be get polluted because of industrial explosions also. So there will be a chance of nuclear radiation, it will be also polluted the fresh air. And some of the areas we can observe here, due to wildfire, the more amount of the forest will be destroyed because of wildfires. The best example if you take recently occurs in the Los Angeles. So in that area, the widespread of the fire will be occurred, and also the forest will be destroyed because of fires occurred in the while that Los Angeles places, and also the aquatic life will be get affected because of oil spills which are directly releases into the water bodies like oceans or rivers or streams. So whatever the aquatic life present in the water bodies, it will be destroyed because of disaster impacts. So in that area, some of the areas will be get destroyed because of oil spills or sewage water directly releasing into the fresh water. The water will be contaminated. So like that, the many areas of the environment will be get affected or impacted because of disasters. Like coming to the physical impacts will be also occurs because of disasters. So disaster, whenever the disaster will be occurred, the number of infrastructure damage will be takes place, like collapsing of the buildings or destroying of the roads, railway lines or bridges. So many areas, the infrastructure will be damaged because of impact of the disaster. And also disruption of the utilities like electricity or water or gas pipeline or supplying of the so many areas, it will be destroyed or disruption will be occurs because of disaster occurs. So whenever the earthquake will be happens, the earthquake will be destruction or disruption of the electricity lines. Okay. And transportation breakdown also will be occurs, blocking of the roads because of landslides and damaging of the airports because of earthquakes will be occurs in the airports. And blocking of the roads because of floods will be occur. So many areas of the transportation will be breakdown because of disaster. So loss of the homes and shelters also will be takes place. So many people will be get affected. Their losing of their homes and shelters, and they will be evacuated from place to place. So like that also, there many impacts will be occurred because of and so many disasters will be occurred in the environment. So physical damages when we observe breaking of the roads and falling or collapsing of the buildings and infrastructure bridges will be collapsed. So many areas we can observe by this diagram. So like that, the physical damages will be occurs because of disasters. Then coming to the social impacts, what type of social impacts will be takes place? The displacement and migration process will be takes place. So many people they leave their houses because of wars or climatic disasters. So many people will be lives their lives also because of so many disasters will be takes place, like a human made disaster or natural disaster will be occurred. And breakdown of the communities, so what are the families will be separated because of occurring of the disasters, and loss of cultural sites also, and strain on emergency services will be takes place, just like overwhelmed hospitals, police and aid workers will be also get impacted because of disasters. Social unrest and crime will be also takes place. These are the areas of the social impacts because of disaster will be uh, taken. So by this diagram, we are observing the so many people are evacuating their own places from own places to some other place, wherever the disaster-free zones are there. Like wherever we, some people will be get losses by their families, like father, mother, parents losses, and some people maybe their near neighbors will be losses. So like that, the psychological or social impacts will be occurred because of disasters. Then ecological impacts, coming to the ecological impacts, disruption of the food chain. Mainly it will be happen because of disaster will be occurs now, there will be chance of burning of the forest. So in that burning of the forest maybe damages the food chain. So whatever the resources which are available for the human being, coming from the forest or coming from the air, coming from the water, so those will be disrupted because of this disaster will be occurs. It will be takes more amount of time for the regain its original position. The soil and water will be contaminated, and it will be leads to long term ecological imbalancing also. And changes in the climatic pattern will be occurred because of wildfires, increasing of the carbon dioxide emissions, and alternating weather patterns will be changes. Instead of rainy season, the winter season will becomes, or summer season will becomes, and instead of summer season, so many rainfalls will be occurred. So like that, the changing of the climatic pattern will be takes place because of more amount of the disaster will be occurred in the ecologically. So like that, the droughts may be occurred, and wildfires, and disruption of the forest will be occurred, and climatic changes will be occurred, and the removal of the forest will be takes place. By the removing of the forest, there is occurrence of the soil erosion because of heavy floods will becomes, the soil will be eroded. Like that also, the ecological impacts will be there. Then coming to the economical impacts, what type of economical impacts will be takes place because of disasters? The loss of business and jobs, unemployment will be takes place. So many factories will be closed because of disasters, and offices will be also destroyed because of disaster occurrence, and increasing of the government spending on reconstruction, aid, disaster responses, it will be also get impacted, and insurance and financial burdens will be more because of occurrence of the disasters. If the heavy amount of the disaster will be takes place, massive claims and increased the premiums also it will be takes place. Finally, the disruption of the trade and supply chain, it will be affected the global and local economics also. So whenever the local government body get affected because of disaster, it will be transform, or it will be get affected throughout the central or throughout the global areas. So these are the things will be comes under economical impacts due to disaster will be occurs. Then political impacts, what type of political changes will be takes place, like changing of the building codes, and new disaster management laws will be comes, and also public dissatisfaction will becomes, so blaming of the government for the inadequate disaster response. So the political people, their opposition of the politicians will be blames the government or authorities who are handling the total state or in total country, and political instability will be also takes place, like protest, regime channel changes due to mismanagement, and international relations will be also get affected because of disasters will be heavy amount of disaster will be takes place, like aid dependency, geopolitical political tensions, or the disaster response. So like that, the political impacts will be rises because of occurrence of the disasters. So many areas we can observe the political responses, how it will be occurs, how it will be happens. The people will be questioned for the government if the immediate response will not be taken by the completion of the disaster. So like that also, the government will be get affected, or political issues may be arises because of occurrence of the disaster. Finally, we can take health impacts. What type of health impacts will be takes place? So physically, in the sense we studied about infrastructure damage, or building damage, or physical bodies will be get damaged because of more amount of disasters will be occurs. If the health of this health and deaths conditions also will be rises or increased by the disaster will be occurs, physically disabled conditions, weakness will be takes place, fatigue, death. So not only the human being, total entire lives will be get affected because of disasters. If the disaster will be get affected by the ocean, the aquatic life get affected. If the disaster will be get affected because by the forest, the forest wildlife will be get affected because of disasters. So if the disaster will be get affected by the human being, the human being get affected by the physically disabled condition, weakness, fatigue, death, waterborne diseases. So many diseases will be occurs by the disasters also. Okay, contamination of the water or vector borne diseases like dengue, malaria, cholera. So many areas will comes through these kind of impacts will be occurs. Respiratory problem because of heavy amount of debris or particulate matter will be in the air. So because of this also respiratory illness will be takes place in the human being. So finally, what type of what type of psychosocial issues will be arises? The people may be get affected by the disasters, the psychosocial issues also, like post-traumatic stress disorders will be takes place, and anxiety. The people get anxiety, depression, grief, loss of loved ones, homes, livelihood. So many people will be comes towards the societal conditions and breakdown of the social support system, and substance abuse and domestic violence also. Coping mechanisms in the aftermath, it will be destruction or decreases, and for disruption in the families and community networks will be damaged. So these are the areas we can observe the total amount of the disaster impacts. So what we have discussed today. So we discussed about 8 or 7 points about the disaster impacts. So what is the first one? So we have discussed about environmental impact, how the environment will be get affected because of disaster, and physical impacts, physical damages will be occurs because of occurrence of the disaster. Social impact, ecological impact, economical impact, and political impacts will be also there because of disasters, and health impacts, and finally psycho social issues may be arises because of disaster will be occurs. So many disasters in the environment will be occurring: earthquake, hurricanes, floods, droughts, and industrial accidents, road accidents, transportation accidents, water accidents, conflicts, terrorist attacks. So many areas, so many disasters will be occurs. Because of these disasters, so many areas will be get affected or impacted by the disasters. So in this video, we conclude with this impacts. And next video, we come to the next topic. I'll discuss with you. If any doubts, you can post in the comment box, or else you can ask in the classroom. So thank you very much for our understanding or for your kind cooperation. Thank you.